G'day, Simon. Welcome to Good Movie Monday. It's great to have you here.
Glenn, it's great to be here. Thank you so much for the chance to have a chat with you.
My pleasure. How are you?
Little stressed, little stressed. Not far out from the festival now. As we speak, we've got the virtual festival just hours away, and the live event about a week away. So it's kind of crazy, and yeah, we're getting through it.
Well, how good are science fiction movies, mate?
Yeah, I'm loving it. I'm glad I'm in
Yeah.
the game. I'm glad I'm in the sci-fi game. It's something that I grew up with, and it's when I had the chance to program a festival full of science fiction movies. It opened up. It sort of re-energized how much I love science fiction movies, and it opened up this whole world of filmmakers whose films you just don't often see here in Australia. And all of a sudden, I'm watching 40-minute mini features from Bulgaria and the very best that Czech animation has to offer and all this sort of stuff. So I'm loving it.
Awesome. Before we get stuck into the festival, I just want to sort of get to know your sort of, your psyche when it comes to sci-fi. So where does your brain go when you hear sci-fi?
It goes dark. It goes inventive. It goes Gilliam. It goes a little bit Tarkovsky. It certainly goes Kubrick. As a younger man, it clearly went Lucas and Spielberg. They were, I'm old enough to have been influenced and seen the Star Wars and Close Encounters at the movies, so that was always important. But it goes to something that I really look for as a film critic as well as a festival director. It goes to original films, like just a really original vision. We often see the same story told many times over, but with the medium of film, it's just great to see how many different ways a really imaginative filmmaker can take it. And I think that's where my head goes for the science fiction. It's funny, and I'll blather on a bit here, but I went through that period as a teenager where I loved the horror and the sci-fi because it just attacked my senses and it sort of put me right in the middle of movie making. And then I got all serious and started writing for SBS and watching, black and white Polish films and with documentaries and stuff like that. But then I've come back to horror and I've come back to sci-fi because I just love that kind of rush that those genres give me. Plus, I love the way that they can interpret different and contemporary themes within that genre setting. So, that's kind of where my head goes with sci-fi.
I feel like our generation's particularly nostalgic, and we all gravitate back towards that stuff that sort of influenced us as kids. What's one movie, like, I know no one likes being asked one movie, but what's one movie, science fiction, that you think back to as one of the most influential for you?
One of the most influential, well, it's a boring answer, but it's Star Wars, because that was the one that sort of set me on the path to discover other science fiction movies. I would say that a film that I've gone back to many times over is Miracle Mile, the film that Steve DeJarnay made with Anthony Edwards. That's a great bit of 80s sort of nuclear paranoia, end of the world kind of stuff, which I loved. I've gone back to Brazil quite a bit, and I'm always surprised when I look at how many times I've revisited Brazil. Plus, what I've also done is I watched so many of those movies on scratchy old VHS rentals when I was a kid. This whole wave of restorations and, remasters that are coming through now. I'm watching some things. I watched the remaster of Dune the other day, the David Lynch one, which I only watched as a scratchy old VHS tape, and it was impenetrable to watch like that. So as a fresh, clean remaster, it's still completely impenetrable, but I still love it as much.
Yeah, both Miracle Mile and Dune get frequent conversations on our show, so good answers. So let's talk about the Sydney Science Fiction Film Festival for a moment, or for another 5 minutes at least. Anyone that hasn't heard of it, give us your best sales pitch. What is the festival all about?
So the festival is specifically to bring Australian audiences in touch with different types of international and domestic filmmakers who have a strong vision, who have a strong sort of what we call speculative storytelling vision. While we certainly have the Little Green Men type of movies and the spaceships and ray guns kind of films, I still love those. I do try to have a broader, more international flavor to what we do. So, this year we've got an Italian-Chilean co-production about soul transference, and we've got a We've got an an American film shot by an LA-based Aussie about a velociraptor that's been regenerated and starts hunting down a couple of millennials. So we try to go to unusual places to find the most unusual films so that audiences here in Australia get to see stuff that they wouldn't normally see.
Yeah, fantastic. And you mentioned a few minutes ago the virtual experience that you're launching for the first time. And I'm guessing this is an obvious consequence of the pandemic. Can you walk us through the virtual experience and how it's going to work for people?
Yes, you're right. It was a consequence of the pandemic. We came out of last year's festival, had a very successful launch last year, and we had planned to expand the physical festival this year. But COVID hit again in Sydney and we had to scrunch up the day. So we're pretty much back doing the same sessions we had last year. But we had nearly a 300% increase in submissions. Last year, I finished on 70 films coming up through the Film Freeway portal that we use. This year, we got to about 220. So we had this huge surge in submissions. I had to put them somewhere because there was a lot of great films amongst them. So I created this online event, which we're doing in conjunction with Zerb TV, xerb.tv. They're a US streaming platform who give sort of smaller not-for-profit festivals like ours a chance to go big. There's no upfront fees. They take a little bit of each screening, but not a lot. So I was able to really, put upwards of 20 features and a bit over 90 short films into this online platform. We had to maintain the integrity of the physical event. So for Sydney listeners, the films showing at the Actor Centre at Leichhardt from the 11th to the 14th, they're not included in the virtual package, but there's still 9 other features and all the shorts which are going out across New South Wales and across the country. This is a national online event. So yeah, it's just xerb.tv and then search for Sydney Science Fiction. It'll come up as soon as you type Sydney and there we are. So.
Awesome. I guess one of the few positives I guess we take away from the pandemic is that connectivity, and many festivals are starting to adopt this sort of virtual experience, which will probably linger for a few years to come. It may be a sort of a permanent feature for a lot of them.
Yeah.
And it allows people from other parts of the country or the world to sort of join in.
I'm hoping so. I think you're right. I think it's going to be impossible to imagine a film festival landscape that doesn't use sort of the hybrid format, at least, like that, to have the virtual and the physical event. It's been such a savior for so many festivals, and not just little ones like mine, but the Cannes and the Toronto. They've all used the online sort of model to get their films out there to seen by media and people like you and I, but also audiences everywhere as well. So I think we'll be keeping it. I hope we can keep it.
I hope so too. And for people like me that can't get up there, it's definitely something that's exciting. And what would you say is? You probably hate this question, but what would you say? What would you say is a highlight of the festival for you? You're going to say all of it, but is there anything that stands
There's a
out?
couple of films I hate that I was made to program by my committee, but I'm not telling you what they are. No, I would say the breadth of Australian talent in the Australian Short Film Showcase. We've got one at the live event and 2 volumes of Australian short films online, and there's some extraordinary stuff that's come out of Australia in the last 12 to 18 months. So I would definitely say have a look at that. The one I mentioned before about Soul Transference, the Vera di Verdad, that premiered at the European Film Market back in February, I think, maybe March, and we negotiated for it then. I saw the film and was just blown away. I was a blubbery wreck after watching it. So it's a beautiful film. We also have a South African film called Glasshouse, which is sort of a riff on the Beguiled, kind of a pandemic has hit, and if you go out in the fresh air, your brain gets fried. So this family are living in this glass house, but a wounded man sort of stumbles upon them, and it's kind of like that sort of Beguiled feel about it. So it's a beautiful looking sort of a bit of a picnic and hanging rock type feel to it. So you can see that it's not all spaceships and ray guns, although I've got a bunch of great ones of those, but there is some more unusual stuff there. That's why I was so pissed off when the Sydney Film Festival changed their dates and kind of lumped right on top of us, because I'm kind of going for their audience. I'm bringing over these hard to find international films, and hoping that people can sort of get over their snobby sort of attitude to science fiction and come and see these amazing films, which, yeah, they have science fiction and fantasy elements, but they're great visions anyway.
Let's hope you can maybe piggyback a little bit off them. But
Yeah. Well, that was part of it. Now I'm hashtagging Sydney Film Festival on all my posts now, so we get some of the runoff of their social media might.
Excellent. The fan film celebration has caught my attention. The double feature you've got with Lockdown and Attack of the Cat People. Now, yes. Cat People, I mean, I've only seen like the trailer for it, but that reminds me a lot of Lost Skeleton of Cadavra. Do you remember that movie?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that's one of my favorites. In fact, that's what I thought of when I saw Attack of the Cat People. It's made by Sarah Stevenson, who's a film critic and a Brisbane-based filmmaker, and she's like, it's a classic case of making movies with your friends on weekends, and the look of it is really good. So, it's made cheaply, and Lockdown, which is sort of the story of how Doctor Who fans around the world coped with being in lockdown through the pandemic, and how their love of Doctor Who got them through that. I put these two films together. They each run about 60 or 70 minutes. I put a cheaper ticket price on it. It's only $7.50 to watch these two movies online. And when you see Attack of the Cat People, it's such a hoot. She harkens back to the Universal monster movies of like that she loves, the Creature from the Black Lagoon and that sort of stuff. So yeah, you'll have a good time watching it. It's definitely a beer and pizza kind of experience.
Yeah, that one certainly speaks to me. But well, congratulations on bringing the whole festival together. It's an impressive program, and I do encourage everybody that's listening or even watching this video to check it out. Where can they go to find tickets and look at the program?
Okay, so for the live event for Sydney listeners, it's our Film Freeway site. So just go to Film Freeway, go to our search for our festival, and the ticket page will pop straight up there in front of you. So that's for the live event. And like I said, for the virtual event, it's xerb.tv. Search for Sydney Science Fiction Film Festival, and all the details are on there, all the different streaming strands. So
awesome. Well, thanks for dropping by. Good luck with it, and wishing you all the best, mate.
Oh, you're a gentleman. Thank you for your support. It helps for festivals like ours, so thank you.